Driving up the back laneway towards the farm I do a wee bit of vermin control at, you can obviously see how many jackdaws can be about the cattle shed. It's not always as bad as this because there's 2 or 3 other farms that the birds can fly off to once disturbed, so it makes it a wee bit awkward trying to build up a decent bag. But I get myself settled into the wee shed that's built onto the side of the cattle shed that I shoot from, and cover the window up with a double layer of camouflage netting to try and cut out as much light as possible shining on me. The first bird into the shed is a magpie, which lands in the railing to my right. I get the camera focused on him, but he's quite fidgety, and just before I manage to get the shot off, he decides to clear off. I've been waiting quite a while now for the birds to settle back in again, when a jackdaw or 2 flies into the shed. The first of which I managed to get the camera focused in on, get the rifle up onto my shoulder just for him to jump behind that metal post there where I can't get a shot at him. So I swing the camera over to the bird on the right, but he dives down into the feed ride to start feeding, and of course when I swing the camera back round to the one on the left, he's disappeared too. The birds are merrily feeding away in the feed ride, but with the amount of metal I have to shoot by, and since there's more cattle in the shed this year than last, I don't feel confident taking a shot. This can be a bit frustrating, but patience usually pays off as one of the cattle move or make a noise which spooks the birds. Not totally, but enough to make them land up on top of the top rail where I can get a shot at them. I've the rifle ready and I'm going to take a shot at the bird on the right, but totally miss. How could I miss that? So when I got home and started to edit the footage, I played it back in slow motion, and you can see just as I take the shot, the bird drops down on its haunches to drop down into the feed ride, and the pellet, the wee white spot, just peers over its back, missing the starling's head by millimetres and striking the back wall. Now that's what I call a close shave. But it hasn't disturbed the jackdaws too much, as they drop straight down into the feed ride to start feeding again. Another jackdaw drops down in through the skylight. I get the camera on him, but he's a walker. Every time you think you have him on camera, he decides to walk off shot again, and then dives down out of the road before you ever manage to get the rifle up to your shoulder. But the birds spook again, one of them landing up on the top rail. I get the camera on him, and I had plenty of time to shoot him, but with the bull standing in the background, I decided not to bother, as I'm not 100% sure where that pellet's going to go after it passes through the bird. After a bit more of a wait, a magpie drops down onto the rail on the right hand side. He looks a wee bit worse for weather, maybe too much heat. I've got a cure for that. Put a pellet just below his shoulder into his heart and lungs. This spooks the rest of the jackdaws in the shed, which fly out of every exit and hole they can find. After a while, another magpie drops down onto the same bar in the same position as the first one. Again, I get the camera zoomed in on him. He sees the dead bird lying on the ground. Again, I centre the crosshairs just below his shoulder blade and take the shot. This spooks all the starlings out of the shed this time. I'm using a spring-powered air rifle today, an HW97 in .177 caliber. I'm also using a different pellet from what I usually use. It's a 177 Bisley Pest Control, and it's a big hollow point pellet. It's not as accurate as the Bisley Magnums that I usually use, but inside a shed here, where I'm only shooting 15 to 20 yards, it's more than accurate enough to take a bird with a heart and lung shot, and it seems to be doing a fairly good job. But after a while I head out and set up a plastic crow decoy, then left the two birds I've just shot, one of which I set up as a decoy with its head into the feed, hoping that this will give the birds a wee bit more confidence to sit still. I know I've said this before, but please be careful working around livestock, especially if you're crossing pens like this. If the animals look at all nervous, do not go anywhere near them, as they can do you a lot of damage very quickly, if not hurt themselves if they panic inside a pen. But after a while I get a great opportunity at a magpie and jackdaw that lands straight above the birds I've just set out as a decoy. But of course the two bulls in the pen in the foreground decide to muck about, which spooks them out of the house. Then a third bird comes down in, again sitting in the rail right above where I placed the magpie as a decoy. But he's not going to make it easy for me, as he flits from one post to the next while I'm continuously trying to keep him on camera. But finally he sits in one place long enough that I can get both camera and rifle on aim. And I take the shot, striking him between the shoulder blades in the back. Well, just the 3 birds today, as they didn't seem as interested in coming into the shed as I have seen before, but maybe that's a sign that I'm doing a good job.